Welcome everybody to the Charlie West Wrestling Show. I am here with Tony and the Supreme Ozzy Blaze, and we are here to talk to you about our 10 favourite wrestling rivalries of all time. And to apparently shout out to Big K-Jax. Hey K-Jax, see you soon. So, who wants to get started on this one?
Go ahead, Tony.
I'll go first. This is probably the first real rivalry that I ever witnessed a real blood feud.
Okay.
And it's Triple H versus HBK.
I thought someone would say that.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's Shawn coming out in his jeans to wrestle. And
I hated that though. Just the jeans, but I love that match.
The whole unsanctioned match before he came back. It was just great the way they kicked it off with D-Generation X finally back together. Yeah. And then Triple H instant pedigree, I'm the game now. That's what you got to deal with. And that went right through to when Shawn won the belt at the Elimination Chamber and stuff with his.
It went on even longer than that too. They had that 3 stages of hell, and then they, around WrestleMania 20, that feud continues. That's a great rivalry because it stretches over a number of years.
Well, it stretched into the Cena main events at WrestleMania, right? They still had Cena versus HBK versus Triple H.
Oh yeah,
they had that triple threat match.
It's funny you bring up that
probably the only triple threat main event that ever happened at WrestleMania.
Yes.
Ooh, that was a good one. No, that is a good one.
That is one of the best ones.
Yeah. That whole thing when Triple H and Shawn had that match at SummerSlam, right? And Triple H turned on Shawn. A few months before that, Shawn came back in the NWO. Yeah. And I always wondered what the plan was. Because obviously when Nash hurt his quad, and then they buried the NWO story, where were they going with that? You got to think they were doing Triple H and Shawn?
That's interesting, because I'm assuming Shawn was ready to go then, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't news to him a few weeks later of oh,
gonna have you wrestle now.
Yeah.
I think they were planning to do they wanted to try and bring H into the NWO, and that was going to be the feud, but that would have been terrible. If they still had that horrible version of the NWO but what we got was just so much better.
Right.
It was just so good. Just really just blood feud.
It was so good that I always wondered what their original plan was with the NWO, because that Shawn and Triple H together, you knew that was going to be money.
But that's classic WWE though, isn't it? Something goes completely wrong and they somehow turn it into the best storyline ever. The stuff they've planned for years is terrible. Yeah. But it's oh fuck, our wrestler just broke. Let's bring this guy in.
Let's just do Shawn and Triple H.
Yeah. Good. Okay, number 10?
Similar era, Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle.
Because
that, on Raw, you had the Triple H and Shawn Michaels feud.
Yeah.
And then on SmackDown, it was all about Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle. That feud, they main evented a number of shows, and it really had this different vibe, right? Where it was these two amateur wrestlers. They always built it up as it was going to be one of the greatest matches. The first one, where Angle was hurt and Brock landed on his head, maybe not the greatest, but as a feud, I thought they were great together.
Also gave us one of the best SmackDown matches of all time.
Exactly. I think that's the best of their bunch.
Yeah, they were so good. That storyline, I remember it was it a Hell in a Cell where, a SmackDown Hell in a Cell match where it was who is Paul Heyman gonna cheat? And it was Brock turns heel on Kurt. Was that?
He went with Vince.
Yeah.
Brock went with Vince.
Yeah. I remember it was really good. They were really good together.
Oh yeah.
Just explosive, the pair of them were two big, legit, tough guys.
The way they suplexed each other too. Yeah, I liked them together. I was really amped up for that first one.
One of the few opponents for Brock where you don't have to immediately think okay, now how do we make this believable? How do we make the other guy feel like they should be in the ring with Brock Lesnar?
Right.
So my number 10 is a bit newer than those two, and it's weird because they're both wrestlers who a lot of people love, and I think are fine, and I get why people love them, but they're not really my guys. But this one feud that they had. It was the feud that wrote Jeff Hardy off of WWE, because when he was feuding with CM Punk.
Okay.
And they had the whole CM Punk was trying to the whole CM Punk is straight edge.
Call him a drug addict. Stuff like that, right?
And it was just really, really good.
That's your number 10?
My number 10 is Punk and Jeff Hardy. I just think it was it wasn't the longest feud or rivalry, but I just it felt real at a time when WWF didn't do real life.
I guess it showed that Punk can be a heel.
Yeah, it really did.
That would have been his first heel work, I bet, right?
Yeah, I think it would have been Straight Edge Society. Yeah, it would have been that sort of, and it was it was just at the end of the period where I obviously knew that wrestling was booked, but I didn't know what the booking was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when they were doing the loser leaves WWE, I genuinely didn't know which wrestler was leaving WWE. So it was the last time that I was able to watch a thing like that and be like, I don't know if this is CM Punk or Jeff Hardy's last show.
Right.
Yeah.
So that also added something to it.
I missed a bit of that program because I was traveling then.
Right.
So I would only see a little bit of the internet, but the bit I've seen was, that's a good one.
Okay, now Johnny, what's your number 9?
All right, number 9. This is one of my favorites. It's not higher up for obvious reasons, but one of my favorite ones. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Bret Hart.
Okay.
Because that was the feud that made Steve Austin a legitimate, believable main eventer. And if it wasn't for that WrestleMania 13 match, which again wasn't the plan, and Bret having Stone Cold in the sharpshooter when he sits up and the blood goes into his face, epic.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that is the transition from mid-carder to main eventer, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And the whole, Bret was gone for 96, right? Most of 96. And
Yeah.
Austin started cutting promos on him.
Right.
Right? And, he has one where he's like, the Hitman, put an S in front of Hitman, and you got my exact opinion on Bret Hart. When he was just starting to really get his heel character. Yeah.
And Tony, it also marks the moment where Bret Hart went from a terrible mic worker to an okay mic worker, right?
Yeah, it was about that time.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. Bret was never good on the stick until he started getting angry.
I really liked the Royal Rumble build up to that one, that Mania as well, though. It's like Austin won, but he didn't win.
Oh, yeah.
Hitman was definitely.
I love that.
That was a good Rumble finish.
Where you see Stone Cold hits the ring or hits the floor, but the ref sits in, he gets back in and shuts Bret.
Chucks him out.
Yeah, that was good.
Hated that Royal Rumble.
Really?
Yeah, because I watched it after the fact, right? So it was just there being it was just another reason for me to be like, why do people like this guy? Everything about him is annoying.
Stone Cold Steve
Stone Cold,
Austin.
yeah.
The biggest money draw in
Yeah,
history
exactly.
of business. Yeah.
Anyway, number 9?
My number 9 is Big John Cena and Brock Lesnar. Just
The modern version or the original?
so from 2013 when Brock first came back.
Okay.
In fact, Brock Lesnar and John Cena they're one of the few guys that when they have those pull apart brawls in the ring that it's actually legit, believable that these two guys are and John's just laughing, trying to get, and Lesnar's just trying to rip through everybody just to get to him. That first time he came back, and then they did it again towards the SummerSlam one.
Yeah.
And it still felt like Brock Lesnar and John Cena always feels like a big match. No matter how many times you see it, they still build it, and I'm still excited about it, and I don't know why.
You just like seeing them together. There's something about that.
The Extreme Rules match in 2012, great match. Even though John did technically bury him at the end, but that whole he destroyed him.
He was
in that.
told to do it.
And then the SummerSlam when they reignited that feud, and I went into that match thinking it was going to be just a big them two like a night at champions where they was just pull out big moves, wasn't going to be great. And then Brock just suplexed him 16 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never seen this before in the history of wrestling. What is going on?
It felt fresh.
Yeah.
Right?
After watching it, it still didn't set in, and I was like, what did I just watch? And all my friends that were watching were like, did that happen? And we were like, I think it did.
Does anyone remember back in it would have been early 2000s after Brock was the champ and he had a match with Cena when Cena was just doing the rap gimmick? Remember that?
I was actually just about to ask his take because the FU was because of the F5.
Right.
It was.
And one of Cena's first good raps was against Brock.
Yeah.
And he mentioned something that's a nice tattoo of your mother on your back.
Yeah.
And that was Cena's going to turn this little funny comedy rap thing into something he can do with the main event guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like at the time Cena didn't feel like he was on Brock's level.
Right.
But, the fact that the promo work and the build up to the feud, he just felt like he was going to be bigger.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid of him.
Yeah,
and then you could see okay, Cena's actually a pretty big guy.
Yeah,
He's jacked. He's not just a comedy jobber.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. I like that feud.
So my number 9
is
is one that I think you might have later on in your list.
Okay.
Or you might not because of not wanting to recycle the same wrestlers over and over and over again. Because you just did Bret versus Stone Cold.
Yeah.
I put Bret and Owen.
Bret and Owen. How the fuck did I forget that?
Because
Kick your leg out of your leg.
Yeah, just that whole thing, like from WrestleMania 10, like just that thing of like when they did the tag team and then that classic thing of like it's one of those things that has been done to death now, right?
Yeah,
like you become a tag team, one person blames the other person for them not winning and like you're overshadowing me.
But that was like
just became
brothers. That's what made it like. It was like they were talking about like Owen always saying like Bret's always the golden child and Bret's the older one. He's the one that's getting all the praise, and I'm here like I'm better than Bret. And then at 10, the cage match, he won.
Not the cage match. That was SummerSlam.
Just
WrestleMania 10.
Yeah, 10.
And apparently Owen and Bret didn't travel together during that era.
What they kept it kayfabe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was this girl in my elementary school that said that she was related to the Harts, and she would be like, "No, it's not real," because all the kids were like, "They hate each other. It's real." Yeah. And she's like, "No, I'm related to them. It's not true."
Yeah.
Who was lying? I don't know.
It's hard. So everyone's uncle knew something. Like people,
Yeah.
My uncle works for Sony. My uncle works for Nintendo. Like, it's always.
She was new to our school, so she might have been from Alberta. Like, and really didn't know that. But obviously it was all work anyway, so maybe she was right. But I love the fact that they kept that kayfabe and didn't travel together.
Yeah.
The whole towel incident as well. Like
the Bret versus Bob Backlund.
And when he had him in the crossface chicken wing, great finish.
He's my brother.
But I love the whole towel thing. It's like begging his mum to throw it in, and at the end he's like,
Yeah, and then Owen runs away with the towel. Owen was the best.
But Bret versus Owen, I actually think it was just a really, really good feud.
I've ever seen Owen at one of the Slammies, and when he won one of the Slammies, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm the best, not like my lousy brother Bret." Like he's still always chirping Bret for how many years, right?
Yeah.
I wish we got more of that. I wish we got like more Owen and Bret even later on.
Yeah.
I imagine if things had ended differently, that would have been something that would have happened a lot.
Wish we got that.
Yeah.
Wish Owen went to WCW and right away turned on Bret. That would have been great. And then didn't turn the blue blazer and die.
Yeah. Anyway, on that happy note, number 8.
Yeah. Oh, is my number 8?
Yes.
Okay, let me check. My number 8. I didn't really grow up watching this, but I know it's an iconic feud. Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. They main evented 2 Starrcades. They had so many epic angles, like Dusty getting his head smashed into the cage door.
Yes.
It was
Hot times, Daddy.
Is that where it's from? It's from that feud, I think.
Is it when he came back? Ric Flair, you put a hurt on my family, Daddy.
Yeah.
You put us through hard times, Daddy. You don't know what hard times is. Like that's it's such an epic feud. And I've watched I didn't watch it at the time, but I've gone back and I've watched like that entire feud and like all the different matches and stuff, like cage matches, just like they did like
lots of blood
every night. Yeah. And like Dusty Rhodes, he's not a professional wrestling body.
Yeah.
He's like an everyday man. The thing is,
have you seen him play basketball? There's videos of him like playing basketball, like 50 years old, and the guy is like just dribbling around people
and just like hitting shots.
Yeah, it's like the guy is like a Kevin Owens type thing. Like the guy was fit.
Yeah,
he just was built like a guy.
Big, But that's one of them feuds. It's just like
if we grew up watching that, it probably would be top, maybe number one even, right?
Like I reckon people that watched wrestling in the 70s and 80s, they're still talking about
that's their feud.
They're like, oh yeah, but it's nothing on Dusty and Flair, and you're like,
probably.
Right.
If there's 3 people in their like 40s and 50s doing this right now,
yeah, that's what they're saying.
I had to put it in. I watched one of the rivalry documentaries and it was like, okay, these guys were magic together.
Number 8?
My number 8 is CM Punk and John Cena.
It's John Cena list for you, is it?
It's not completely John Cena, but like
there's a bunch.
But I really do love that John Cena CM Punk feud, like just all the way from the pipe bomb to the Money in the Bank. Like he just gave us so much. Like Money in the Bank match is still one of my favorite matches of like the modern era. It's like that classic John Laurinaitis coming down and
that's the best bit of that era.
Yeah,
and Punk started making everybody, even some of my friends back home who don't watch wrestling, they'd be like, Who's this John Cena? Or who's this CM Punk guy?
Yeah.
Everyone started talking about it.
And then the pipe bomb hit, and he was like, "Oh yeah,"
it was after the pipe bomb. Everyone was talking about it.
Yeah, everyone was like, after that hit, everyone was like, "Oh, I heard this happened on what's this promo?" Like they were sharing the promos stuff. Like, what's this? And he's like, "Is it real or is it not real?" So,
that's how you get people interested.
Yeah, because Punk is great at doing that type of promo, And like, I mean, say what you think about CM Punk as a wrestler in the, as John Cena as a wrestler in the ring.
Yeah.
One thing that he is one of the best at is using promos to make any match feel like it's the most important match that's coming up right now.
Yeah,
like he can hype a match like.
And he can have a good match though too, especially like when you think he's gonna lose and you're like seeing him lose, especially for that era, he could get that out of it, right? Definitely. He could bring that out where you weren't quite sure it was gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree. So my number 8 is keeping up with the 10 rivalries that we really loved John Cena being in. I have Cena and Edge.
Another great one. Just missed my list.
It's because I was there thinking like, you know, Cena's had some iconic rivalries, but like I was thinking like which are the most long term, because Cena and CM Punk was great for a few months. And then it was other things. Cena and Edge went for 10, 12 years. And I think the two long term the two long term Cena feuds are Edge and Randy Orton. And like when Cena went back to Randy Orton, every time it was like, is this what we're doing again? Can we not? There's other people. But every time it went back to Edge, it's like they did something different, and it felt like I'm okay with this again.
I only remember that one when Edge had the spinner belt.
Yeah,
and they did like SummerSlam and the match in Toronto, which I didn't go to, and I really wish I did, because Edge got the attitude adjustment off the ladder through some tables.
Yeah. But they were always because it was always like Triple H was on Raw doing his stuff, and then you had Edge and Cena fighting for Smackdown stuff, and then Cena would disappear to Raw for a bit, and then Edge would go to Raw, and they would always cross over.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, I just remember that one big feud.
Yes.
It's a good one.
Do you want to do number 7, Tony?
Number 7, I have... Oh, I've got the
Shield. Do you even read your handwriting? That looks hard to read. Because I'd have to, looks like it's Chinese. You were there for a while.
Yeah.
You must have picked some of that up.
Yeah, it is all in Chinese. So number 7 is the Shield versus Evolution.
Okay.
Because that whole feud starting from like the Authority to they had the amazing match with the Wyatts, and then like straight after that, Triple H, they started like ignoring what Triple H said. And then Triple H was like, "All right, you're not going to do what I do. I'm going to bring my boys in at the Shield," and they had like 2 great matches throughout that, and then that led to Seth Rollins like always have a plan B.
Do you think that was too early when they did that?
I think it was. I think the execution of it was great, but like I think it was too early to have like another. I think it was because Batista left; they had to do it. And obviously the Shield went over clean twice.
Right.
That's another example of like Triple H and Batista, and when they'd gone over twice clean. Like there wasn't much more to do, but you could have like had Triple H with some other guys.
They felt so hot, and then you just like ended the Shield. I felt like they could have maybe had a little bit longer of a run.
I think it was worth it for that moment though, because they did just beat beat Batista twice clean. And I think it was Batista as well.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever actually seen those matches.
Oh, they're very
matches.
Good. Yeah.
So if you go for like the Shield and you go from like the Wyatt family, they had the Wyatt family and then Evolution twice, and those 3 matches are phenomenal.
Yeah, I think I've seen the Wyatt one.
It's a good shot. How are you?
7, right?
Yes, 7.
7. I got Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. You can't be a top rivalry when you main event 3 WrestleManias, right? And it was working with Austin that really got The Rock to that next level. But then you can also say that Austin needed a guy like The Rock to,
they needed somebody like that wasn't
an antagonist.
Yeah, he needed someone like to be there. Like I think he saw like which, because like we had Austin and Rock with the Intercontinental title as well, which was pretty good when they threw the title into the ring and stuff like that. And then like
I don't need this piece of crap.
Yeah, and then once Austin beat Michaels, I was like, we need someone. Let's bring The Rock back in again.
Yeah.
And that just worked for the next Mania. Like, especially once they had that like sit down interview with JR.
That was before WrestleMania 17.
Yeah, like they won that. That was great.
Yeah. That certainly doesn't really happen anymore now, right? Like you don't really get like main event feuds where you're like, I remember when these two were fighting over the US title or the Intercontinental title a few years ago.
Yeah.
They're always just people that are shot straight past the mid card.
Yeah, that is what happens.
They don't use the mid card as much as they used to. Like Triple H and The Rock had a feud with the IC belt.
Yep.
And they came back to that one. And like they did the same with The Rock and Austin. Like they were testing the waters there, and they're like, "This is a main event."
Yeah.
Bam, let's have it in the main event.
It works because those guys know how to work, and then they add different things to their matches.
And The Rock takes the stunner better than anyone. Scott Hall.
He's very, very good at that.
I didn't like the way Scott Hall took it. It was a bit too jokey. The way The Rock did it was awesome.
So my number 7, we're going back to the grand old glory days of wrestling. I think early 90s. I've said many times, I get confused as to when 89 became 1990, the worlds of WrestleManias. But this is a rivalry that I think in reality actually didn't last very long. Maybe only had like 1 or 2 matches, but it was one that really reignited like a couple of characters. It established one guy as being one of the best heels in the business, and it brought back a guy who had been kayfabe retired. And it was the Macho Man and Jake the Snake Roberts.
I fucking love that one. I didn't put it in. I didn't put it in because it never main evented a Mania. It was really short, but what a fucking feud! The snake, he punched Elizabeth.
Yes. Like the whole rivalry is like it's a snake and it's a wedding, right? It's not a rivalry. You think like those matches, right? You're not thinking like, do you remember that Macho Man versus Jake the Snake Roberts match? Like,
Tuesday in Texas.
Exactly. Even though those two are two of the best wrestlers out there, right? So you're talking about a really good match, but you're not talking about the match. You're talking about what those two characters were doing to each other.
It was so good. Jake as a heel. I wish we got more of that. Jake as a heel, but he left. I love that feud. I remember watching that on TV, and it was just, it was so intense.
Definitely. Did you hear the story about how they were going to have Jake go against Hogan? And they videoed...
It was way back, like WrestleMania 2.
Like, they filmed Jake DDTing Hogan, and the crowd cheered. So, like, bury the footage. Jake, you can't be in the main event.
And apparently Jake went through the curtain, and Vince was like, wrong reaction, pal. And that was, like, for those guys back then, they don't care if they beat Hogan, but they get the house show loop, right? So you're working with Hogan on the house show loop.
You're making money. You're making a shit ton of money. You're working all the big stadiums. Now, he's like, I lost all my money by big money run by the fact that
he also got screwed by Warrior in that respect, right? He was screwed out of a run with Warrior. Was it Jake?
I think so.
Yeah. But
it was during this time when he turned heel.
Yes.
Yeah, I love his heel promos at that time.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Because he was the one guy that wasn't going, and I'm gonna burn, just like being like, okay, what type of cocaine are you on right now?
Yeah. Well, Jake was on a lot, but he was not during his promos.
Yes.
Or at least he hit it very well.
Yes. Okay, do you want to do number 6?
Number 6. All right. Number 6, I've got Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Sting. Because the greatest matches, but that whole rivalry was built for at least a year. The way they would do it with Sting in the rafters, you were waiting to see Hogan and Sting. Yeah, the match wasn't great, but it wasn't actually that bad. The finish was fucked. But I love that whole NWO Sting rivalry. I think it was good.
Yeah, it was a fantastic feud. Like, just that I never wanted to see a match more
than that one.
Like when it was like when Sting coming back, when Sting like he'd come down, drop down, do all this stuff, and like, come on,
when's he getting Hogan? That was their most successful WCW pay-per-view of all time too.
Yeah, and
that's Staircase
as well.
Yeah,
that was something that WCW did, but like they made you want to see the match and then gave you a match you didn't want to see.
Unfortunately, but that build up that made Nitro can't miss TV throughout '97.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's a classic theme, right?
Yeah.
Number 6.
My number 6 is Savage and Flair.
I love that one too. I didn't put that one.
The whole like Inquirer pictures. They didn't Photoshop it. They actually took the pictures, but like claimed that it was Photoshopped afterwards.
Like, Rick and Liz on the bathrobe or something. Yeah. But maybe it was Randy.
Yeah. Just WWF or into WCW as well?
I think just the WWF one's the best for me. Like just that whole build to that Mania for the title. Like it's just
I love that too.
Born out of the fact that the house show loop, Hogan and Flair didn't draw. They were like, let's put him with Randy, and Flair just like promo gold. And, like, savage. And he said he had a centerfold of Miss Elizabeth naked. He was going to put that on the big screen. But like even their stuff in WCW wasn't bad. Like that rivalry went on for years. That was just the best part of it.
Yeah, that was the culmination of a multi-feud, multi-wrestler story arc for Macho Man that started in like WrestleMania 4, right? Like you can count like the evolution of Macho Man's career from 4 to 8 of like just winning that tournament, having a thing that we might talk about later, then dealing with Warrior, and then getting Elizabeth back, and then Elizabeth being fucked over by.
But then Jake is even in there too.
And
the Jake feud, and then the Flair
and it's
feud.
just this consistent arc of Macho Man's career from 4 to 8.
You gotta say,
perfectly done.
Macho Man's obviously one of the, he's one of your favorites, one of my favorites. I'm not sure. John Cena maybe is one of your favorites. But like in WWF, Randy Savage had the best storylines. He was so good at carrying those feuds, but like his feuds are just so iconic.
Yeah, they are. Just the way he talked, the way he made everything feel real.
That's what it is.
The fact that anytime anyone mentioned Elizabeth, he probably was making it real.
Apparently he was. The stories are that he actually really was that nuts about it.
Okay, so my number 6, I think we won't talk about as much because it's one that I think has been really good. It's what I think is a really good modern feud, and I think it's the best women's feud that WWE has done since they've started caring about women's wrestling, which is the Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. Like since Becky Lynch came back from injury, beat her in 26 seconds, and they had a 1-year feud. And I know that it's not as iconic and as history-making as the stuff that we've talked about, but the fact that WWE finally managed to book 2 female wrestlers in a long-term story that wasn't just, you're prettier than I am, or you have a belt and I want the shiny belt, but tried to build characters and tried to build character development. I think compared to other women's feuds that WWE has done, it's on another level.
And those are good matches too.
Yes, and great matches. Yes.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Not making my top 10 rivalries of all time, but still, not bad.
I'm just not a Becky Lynch fan, so I should keep my mouth shut.
That's fair enough. But like I say, I understand that it's not on that sort of history iconic list that the others we're going to talk about. But I wanted to talk about it because it is like this outlier of finally a good match-based feud.
You keep saying iconic. If you bring up the fucking iconics on this list, Charlie, I'm done. I quit the show.
They're not here. I don't know what your obsession is with those two.
I'm waiting for the Miz and fucking Bad Bunny.
You know he's going to do Miz.
Anyway, number 5, Ozzy.
I know neither of you have really seen this feud. Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada. Epic. You won't watch it because the matches are too long. You really, really should. That feud is really got North American fans start focusing on New Japan. And it really put Kenny Omega to that next level.
That's fair. And obviously, I've heard about the matches. They're the matches that keep breaking the star ratings and things, right?
Yeah, they're the ones who broke. Yeah, they broke the star ratings.
Can I ask from a serious point of view? Because they are matches that I don't really watch because Are they? Is this a rivalry of storyline and things of this, or is it just good match followed by good match followed by good match followed by good?
It was just an amazing match, incredible matches.
Right.
Obviously, like I don't follow all of the storylines and everything.
The storyline was there, so I kind of know the storyline.
Yeah.
It is that like Omega no one had ever kicked out the one-winged angel. That was one of the big storylines running through it. And the one was that like
he couldn't hit it on
him, and then there was like the Gaijin. Yeah, first he couldn't hit it on him. Yeah, and then there was the fact that like Kenny Omega had never been the New Japan Pro Wrestling Champion. So everyone assumed he was going to win because he was going to be the Gaijin champion.
Yeah.
And then obviously he didn't. And then they had the second match and third match, and so it was like a big good story. So I was like in a group of a bunch of like real huge marks, and they would like type in the story out with like full thing. I was like, oh, it sounds really good, but it's 90 minutes.
It went on for a long time too. Because they did like
2 years.
The very first one at the Wrestle Kingdom, that was like the first one that really put that on the map.
Yeah.
I think it was the first 6-star match or whatever. They had a G1 match where Kenny beat him. Then they did, the 60-minute draw. And then they did the best 2 out of 3. And I think I think it is 90 minutes. But watching it live, I didn't realize how long it was. They were.
That's the nature of it. It's like Royal Rumbles. Like the Royal Rumble matches are always like 70, 80 minutes, and they never feel that long. Even if they're bad.
Right.
They just feel like every minute something's happening.
Yeah. And there was a lot of action.
Yeah. But even the best Royal Rumbles, you'll be like, just going to skip it to like number 15, take it from there. So, but no, I mean, it's obviously a classic rivalry. Yeah,
it really was. And I think the fact that feud happened is one of the reasons we have AEW now.
That's very possible, right?
Yeah.
It made Kenny Omega somebody that even WWE were like,
exactly.
We'll pay you all the money to stop you being in another company.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And 5 things.
So repeat Bret and Owen.
Ah.
I had that at number 5 because I just remember growing up watching that and just being like, this is like the one where like the match where Bret lost and then went on to like the title match and stuff.
WrestleMania 10.
And Owen, when everyone's celebrating and Owen's just there.
Yeah, and that's beautiful because it's like Owen just beat him. Like, not.
No. The funny thing was too, they apparently redid the whole match right before the show because what they planned, Owen was going to look too much like a babyface. He was going to do all kinds of high-flying moves, and Bret's like, no, you got to be a heel. They redid the whole match, and they got that masterpiece.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I love the finish, too. The victory roll.
Yeah. It's great. That's what, You used to told Hart about that, how I watched it for the first time and was like,
oh, it's a different match.
It's a different match,
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great feud, right? It's one of the few times, because often, like, when family members feud, it doesn't quite work because, like, they kind of don't want to hurt each other. Like, we have it with the Mysterios right now, right? So, like, Ray apparently doesn't want to fight Dominic. Jeff and Matt could never have a decent feud, you know? Edge and Christian, 2 more brothers that just never... But no, like, often brothers or... Like, they don't tend to have great matches and in-ring chemistry together.
Steiners.
Yeah.
I don't remember them having great matches. Yeah.
But Bret and Owen...
They did it.
Yeah.
So good together.
Okay, so my number 5 is... I think this is a rivalry that technically... I don't say technically, did begin in WCW. I think it was a big rivalry in WCW. But for me, I'm thinking more of the WWE period of it. I think it's testament to these two that they were given like one of the most stupid storylines in wrestling history, and they made it work because they're just that good in the ring and that good at like complimenting each other, which is Eddie and Ray. Dominic custody stuff. Like no matter however stupid that storyline was, they made it feel
their matches in WCW, that Halloween Havoc one, unreal. But those are 2 guys you can put in the ring and you're going to get something amazing every time.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like, we need something in the card that's just, you hate each other now, or you like, and they're just so good. Like,
so let me just clarify, you don't care about their WCW feud, you're just focusing on the Dominic storyline.
No, I'm just saying that like the WCW feud is not really one that I grew up watching.
Okay.
So
it was the Dominic feud that got you into this and made it number 4 on your list. Is that right? Just to clarify, hey, I'm just clarifying facts here.
Look,
is it 5 or 4 for you?
No, 5.
Number 5. Okay,
yes.
You like
it's because
Jerry Springer stuff.
No, it's because that feud is what allowed us to have the Rhea Ripley choking men on Raw character that we have now. You know,
I'll go with that. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. No. I just mean that was I use that part of the feud as being like, even when they were given like the most stupid storyline ever, they made something that felt compelling and you wanted to watch.
I remember seeing on SmackDown leading up to that when Eddie turned on him. Mm-hmm. I think he gives him like a brain buster on the steps and he like rips his mask and you can see Mysterio's bleeding.
Yeah.
Eddie, man, such a jam.
Okay, so that's my number 5. Tony, do you want to go number 4?
Number 4 is the classic handshake that shook.
Oh yeah! And I hate to say this, but that is also my number 4.
Megapowers explodes. Yeah. All the little touches, like all the little looks that Hogan gives it.
It was a year.
Yeah. And just the whole like you see like he lifts her up on his shoulders and
Savage is looking at him.
Like just all those little touches and the bits in the back where he's like carrying it to the back and stuff.
I remember watching that live, that Saturday Night Main Event. That is completely what Hogan was like, I can see it in your eyes, Hogan. Yeah. And he hits him with the belt, and I was just like, I'm that kid who wasn't like, oh, poor Hogan, Hulk Hogan. I was like, yeah, he's trying to fuck Macho Man's wife. Yeah. Savage should hit him with the belt, and I was all Savage was my guy from then.
Definitely. Would you go as far as, would you carry that into what they did in WCW as well?
I would say so, yeah. Because he's the one who, the NWO started with Hogan dropping the leg on Randy.
Yeah. It's, I mean, hell, like years after they both kind of retired from mainstream wrestling, they still
like, yeah. Be a man, Hogan.
Exactly. To Macho Man's dying day, he was calling out
I love it.
Hogan, right? But no, it's a classic.
Yeah, it's the one that hooked me. Was it the one that hooked you, or were you? Yeah,
it's the one that like hooked me because I remember I got a VHS of like WrestleMania 4. And I was just like watching all the back, and I was like, I've got to go back and see if they've got tapes of like what happened here. Like, So I was like, I can go back and see the whole. This is before they did like promo packages and stuff, but they still had like bits like showing stuff, and I was like, I've got to go back and watch stuff. So I was like getting tapes of like.
There's other ways to look at it too. Like 5 was where they had the Mega Powers explode, right? 4 is where Randy won. So I had to go back and watch WrestleMania 4 because I started like it was that I remember just that Saturday Night Main Event was one of the first live wrestling shows I ever watched because we got that in Canada. And going back to WrestleMania 4, I knew Savage won there, but then going back and watching it, Hogan fucking steals the spotlight. Hogan comes in, he hits DiBiase with a chair. He's in the ring the whole time,
like holding up his hand or something.
Yeah, and I was like, this fucking asshole. He's just like here to steal all the spotlight.
Yeah, it's
and try to fuck his wife. No, he's a horrible man.
Yes, it's a wonderful thing. But what's bigger than the Mega Powers exploding? And
I know this is gonna be bad.
So you have a wrestler whose career trajectory was that they're this huge name on the indie scene, like this one independent wrestler that everyone thinks like they're the next big thing. But in WWE, no, the other one. But in WWE, they come in and they're just treated like this little guy. Like they don't want to care about him. They put him on a game show and they give him
Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, and they give him a star, a superstar that's going to be his mentor in this. And the superstar they give him is a guy that's been in the business for like 5 years and is a reality TV show star.
That was so insulting.
Exactly. It's like, why would you do that? And this thing of like always pushing Daniel Bryan down, that you're not this, you're not that. And I know that I go to this well a lot. I know you don't like it, but of all the things that this guy did, The Miz and Daniel Bryan.
Why don't you make it Daniel Bryan and Triple H?
Because
that's the better feud, not the fucking Miz. What match did they have? Like one match at a B pay-per-view? What the fuck? Why is it not Triple H?
It's not about the matches. It's about the storyline. It's about the evolution. Like the Miz made
Daniel Bryan and are you hearing this? Daniel Bryan and Triple H is the better story.
The Miz made Daniel Bryan.
No, but
the Miz made Daniel Bryan.
The better story is Triple H as the fucking authority. They put him in that stupid Bray Wyatt thing. They broke like complete kayfabe with it. And Triple H put Bryan over at the biggest show, WrestleMania 30, to like, go on.
I understand.
That's a much bigger story than the whole Stephanie McMahon thing. And you're going
slapping your B+ player.
And you're going with the fucking Miz going on about a concussion.
They had one
good match.
At a pay-per-view, no one remembers it, even a pay-per-view.
And the rest of it was all done on a TV show, talking smack.
Exactly. They created...
that's the bit you love. Is it
4?
Number 4.
They created a rivalry for the ages using talk shows and television.
It was not a rivalry for the ages. You could... If you say it's... I thought you were going to say Daniel Bryan and Triple H, and I was going to say, good job, Charlie.
There's another list down without The Miz.
Can you do a fucking list without The Miz?
Yeah.
We'll see.
My good God.
I knew it was coming.
You thought that was coming? I can't believe it.
I
thought he was
going to say
Miz and
No, when he said Daniel Bryan,
yeah,
I knew it was going to be Daniel Bryan and The Miz.
I was ready to congratulate him.
No.
It'd be nice. I thought it was Triple H.
That's a good feud, but it's the second best Daniel Bryan.
Okay,
number 3.
My number 3 is a repeat. It is the old Rhodes and Flair.
Like really? You got that high, eh?
Yeah, because I've actually gone back and watched it all, like out of like curiosity.
Even the matches are good.
Yeah,
like the Starcade matches and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't remember if I've ever actually seen.
Like it's like the Hogan Rock thing. The crowd, like the heat from the crowd is just amazing. Especially like this one where like they break Dusty's arm, like the afterwards and stuff. That's like the hard stuff.
In the cage.
Like, oh yeah, and like the crowd like looks ready to because like he's real to them.
They didn't slam his head in the cage. They did his arm. The cage door was Flair and Mr. Perfect.
So yes, and the crowd is just like they're ready to riot.
Yeah,
like that whole thing.
They almost did it. That's
so intense for a rival, especially when you realize it's like the 70s and 80s. Like it's so good.
When people actually thought it was real, right? Yeah, it's good you put it higher. I'm glad I put it at least on my list. Yeah, good one.
It's a bit before the time of what I was watching. I know you're watching it both on.
It's no Bushwhackers, but yeah, it's not bad. You should check it out.
The Sheepherders versus the Fantastics.
You should check it out. You should check it out, Charlie. Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair, they're pretty good wrestlers.
Okay, I'll have a look.
Okay.
I've heard they've had a couple of decent matches in their career.
Yeah, I think you know my number 3. You're not gonna, you know these guys.
Yeah.
Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
I think. I've seen a couple of them.
Yeah,
they were good mates, right?
Yeah,
in
that's what made that feud so much better, right? Like,
oh yeah,
and they had even matches when they were Intercontinental guys.
Hmm.
The first ladder match that was Bret's idea because they used to do it up in Stampede, and him and Shawn did one to show Vince. It was like on a house show, and then Vince took the idea and gave it to Shawn and Razor. Yeah, exactly. But they have matches.
Bret always thought that Shawn was the one that got Razor, got his mate Razor. So I like that match, but not with him.
Yeah, maybe.
That's maybe. They've spoke about that before, and he's like, that's how Bret saw it. Was like he used his pull with Vince to be like, take his match and then do this one.
When he could have just waited, he knew Bret was going to win the belt. He could have just waited and done that at SummerSlam or something like that, right?
I think that's the nature. Like when you know that some of that stuff is true, and especially when you have like the mentality that Bret has, suddenly all of it becomes true, right? Like every single decision that doesn't make sense for you becomes like they're doing this deliberately.
Yeah.
They're doing this deliberately.
Yeah, Bret was like the biggest paranoid wrestler. And when Shawn mentioned Sunny Days, the funny thing was I don't think Bret banged Sunny, but Shawn definitely was banging her for a long time.
Oh yeah. There's that whole. It's very sad when you look at the story. Like Chris Candido was with Sunny,
and he knew that his girl was just getting filled out like an application by all the top guys.
Yeah, and then when you hear people talk about it, they're like, it actually was quite sad. Like everyone knew, like Shawn knew. Like Shawn would be like go up to him in the locker room, like, "Yeah, buddy," and like be like,
Shawn was dead.
Yeah,
but Bret never banged Sunny, or they. But like, he definitely cheated on his wife. I think that was the
probably yeah. But like, Sunny and Bret both maintained it didn't happen. So like,
who knows? We weren't there.
We weren't there, but most likely did. Yeah.
But like when it comes to Bret and Shawn, going back to what we're talking about, it's basically because we talked about
Charlie just wants to steer us out of the ditch, and everyone's like, "Oh, tell us more about that."
But like we talked a minute before about how Bret and Owen, like they're brothers and they have such good chemistry, and then suddenly someone that Bret hates more than any other wrestler in the company, they also have fantastic chemistry. And it's just like
great
how
matches.
Bret is able to just be like, if the other person's able to work, or if they're not able to work, I'll make the matches great.
And the whole story of WrestleMania 13 was supposed to be Bret and Shawn. Then Shawn lost his smile, but then we got, my opinion, the greatest WrestleMania match of all time, Stone Cold and Bret.
Yeah. So,
and again, because they fucked up.
Yeah, that's how it always works, right? Oh. So number 3.
That's great. I like the entrances.
You did number 3 there? Have you done
that? My 3 was Bret and Shawn. His 3 was Dusty and Flair. Now,
right, so
I'm sure you're going to have something awful.
No. No, this is my last like modern feud, and it's a tag team feud, and it's one that has gone on for years and years. It always comes back to it because it's just the case that it is just 2 tag teams that just whenever they're put together have great matches.
Yeah. It's just epic.
The Usos and the New Day.
Are you fucking with us?
No, they always have number 3.
Number 3, the greatest rivalries in the history of the pro wrestling business, the fucking New Day and the Usos.
One of the
is Charlie's number 3.
One of the best pieces. One of the best pieces of long-term storylines that I've seen in a match was in the build-up to Kofi Mania, where they had the tag team gauntlet, and it was Big E and Xavier having to go through 6 different teams.
That was epic.
But
Rick Dusty getting his arm broken. Shawn and Bret really fighting in the back.
I know sometimes you have to tell a story using actual writing and creativity and not real life.
Oh,
I know it's a thing that happens. It wasn't cheesy. They went through team after team after team. Then the Usos came out and were like, "This is bullshit. We forfeit." Because we respect what you.
I mean, it was good.
It was
good.
I don't remember.
I like it, but like number 3.
Yeah,
that could have been your number 10, and I still would have made fun of you a little bit, but not this bad.
Yeah, it's look. We can all just be like, look up, insert internet wrestling website here, and be like, top 10 rivalries of all time. Okay,
or we can go back and watch actual good wrestling instead of fucking The Miz and the New Day. Oh,
Oh God! Come on! Go and tell us about Mr. Baldy Glass Breaking Man and how he had 3 decent opponents in a 5-year run
and drew mad money and made the wrestling business as hot as it's ever been. Just because you didn't live through it doesn't mean that it wasn't amazing.
Right. Number 2.
My number 2. Oh no, you want Tony to go first?
Mine's a repeat.
Oh, is it? Brett and Sean. Okay,
Brett and Sean.
nice.
Okay, that was always one for me. Growing up, I watched Wrestling with Shadows as well.
What was your favorite match of DVDs of those 2?
Brett and Sean.
Yeah, what would you say?
Survivor Series. The Screwjob. I love the way that it's clearly a shoot, but like Brett works it like he lets himself get put in this sharpshooter, like, and that whole match is great, like flags and stuff. Like
that was insulting.
Yeah, but it's still like
it's funny. Yeah, it is funny. It is funny, but at the time it was insulting.
Yeah, and you can see like if you watch it back now, you can see like the nervousness on Triple H's face as he's walking out. Like, and I watched that along with Wrestling with Shadows. Like, so
yeah,
that's great. I the Mania match that they had, the Iron Man match.
Yep.
That's great as well. But
some people think it's a bit long, but still, it is good. So, sorry, when you were watching Wrestling with Shadows and then that match, were you watching that in 97 or?
I was watching it in 97. It was like after the fight.
Okay.
So like I rented Wrestling with Shadows from Blockbuster, and then I was like, the next day I was like, we were taking the tape back, and I was like, Survivor Series 97. Where is it? Like, where's 97? Like
the Wrestling with Shadows was on TV in Canada. Like,
yeah.
You know, it came out live, and it was epic.
Yeah, we've said so much about it, right? It's one of the best rivalries ever. It's one of the top 2 rivalries of all time.
But I will say something about Bret Hart. He's a Canadian legend, but I do think it's a bit of a mark for himself for not wanting to lose in Canada. You can't say that. Like, back then, I would have agreed with it, but looking at it now, just get screwed and lose the belt. Who cares? You would have been just as hot going to WCW.
Definitely.
Yep. I was always in the camp of just like, fucking do it. I was like Triple H. When we say Triple H, we sat there and said, let's just screw him. I'll be like, that was me. I was like, I'd be like,
screw him.
Number 2?
Number 2, Hogan and Andre.
Oh, okay.
Hogan and Andre, because that was WrestleMania 3, and then that was a really long-term storyline. Again, a bit before my time of going back and watching the stuff. He's on I think Piper's Pit. He pulls the chain off of him, and he's like, "Go, Andre!"
He's got the blood, like a little bit of blood coming down his finger. He's like, "Andre, why could you do this, man?"
And then he had Heenan with Andre, and that's
DiBiase and.
Because that went on, right? Like WrestleMania 4 was about that. Mm-hmm. Then even that SummerSlam, it was the Mega Bucks versus the Mega Powers. That's an epic pay-per-view, by the way. Yep. SummerSlam '88. Yeah. That's one of my favorite. Just like that. That's that classic WWF, that era. You get Demolition and Hart Foundation in that one. You get Warrior beating Honky in 10 seconds.
Kind of the title. It's just a good. Yeah.
So my number 2?
Yeah.
My number 2 is, I'm a little sad, you're being so mean. No, my number 2 is Bret and Sean. So.
Okay. All right. Here we go, Charlie.
We're kind of on the page.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly, absolutely. When Bret came back and won the US title, and then Sean said no, and then shook Sean's hand. No.
Yeah, that was just the moment.
That was the moment. That's the only point. The only point in the feud that it really made sense.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, Bret and Sean. Like whether it was for mid-card titles, world titles, it's just
they just had a thing together.
Like you just knew. Like there are certain wrestlers throughout history that it's like you put them together, you're going to get a match.
Yeah.
Eddie and Ray, Bret and Sean, like
Savage and Flair.
Yeah, they're not going to fuck it up.
Yeah.
So number 1s.
All right.
First. Tony, do you want to go first?
My number 1's going to piss you off to the nth degree.
The Young Bucks versus FTR.
No. Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon.
Fuck, that's my number 1.
I fucking knew it.
It is, that's what set wrestling on fire in the late 90s.
It's literally the one fucking feud that like just trumps anything. Like they're never gonna get that lightning in a bottle again.
And the funny thing is, it wasn't about them having a match.
No,
right?
No.
But that made Monday Night Raw a show to watch for 2 years.
Yeah, years. Yeah, like even like you got straight, and then it got to the point where they were like, Austin's gonna first he stunned McMahon, which was terrible stun.
That was
but,
like, MSG.
Yeah,
that was awesome. Watching that
anyone
live,
taken more stunners and not learned how to do it?
Probably not. But that's a funny bit of how he takes. But I like when he does the seizures. The very first one, he did the seizure.
Like first he stunned McMahon, and then like they got to the whole bit where it's like is Austin going to finally like get his hands on him? And then they had the match at St. Valentine's Day Massacre as well. Where it's like he's finally gonna like big Vince, roided Vince, and then like Paul White came out and destroyed that stuff. Like,
you don't remember the first Raw that beat Nitro in like what it was, 83 weeks, right? At the Bischoff show. The show that beat Nitro for the first time was when they did Vince versus Austin, and Vince was gonna have a match on Raw, but he's like, you gotta have the hand behind your back, and then Dude Love comes out, and it was a fuck finish, but like. The fact that they were advertising Austin and Vince is what swung the ratings.
That's when he came out like jacked for the first time.
And you couldn't believe it. You couldn't believe he was jacked. Vince is jacked.
I remember seeing that. That's Vince McMahon. Like,
this guy was like a little nerdy announcer.
Like he looked better than most of his wrestlers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like he looks better than almost all the guys in AEW now.
No, I mean, it's not my number one.
Okay.
It is from the period that I didn't watch wrestling. I understand how important it is. I understand how big it must have been if you were watching it live.
Yeah.
But it's just not the period I was watching.
When Vince pissed himself.
Yeah. That was great.
So
going to go to the Bang 360.
Yeah.
So for me, number one, you both talked about how the big first feud that got you into wrestling was Megapolis.
Yeah.
Right? That like you were watching it or you discovered things and stuff. I love that. And it would have been clearly in my top 10 somewhere if I hadn't put other things with Macho Man already in and I wanted to
get
keep
the
things exactly. Keep the big ones in there, right?
Yeah.
So for me, what the first time that I got into wrestling was, and this isn't my feud, don't be out yet. When I got into wrestling was Yokozuna being the WWF champion.
Mm-hmm.
So he just beaten Hulk Hogan. He was the WWF champion. You had Lex Luger and all of that going on. And that
cameraman finished.
Yeah, and that was me going like, wow, I'm really into like this whole like, is anyone going to beat this huge guy, whatever else? I'm going to start watching other stuff. So I started renting all the videos of previous WrestleManias.
Okay.
And the one that most got me hooked
I know what it is.
was not Macho Man versus Hulk Hogan, but Macho Man versus the Ultimate Warrior.
Fair play.
So for me, that thing of watching that match and not knowing the outcome. So I watched the Macho King cost Ultimate Warrior the title to Sergeant Slaughter.
Were you renting them in
renting them in bits. And then I watched WrestleMania 7 and I'm like, look at his career's on the line. Like, I really hope Randy doesn't lose.
But you didn't know that he came back?
I didn't know any of it. Yeah, I didn't know any of it because...
Oh, you started watching around WrestleMania.
I was watching when Randy... and I was watching when he's a commentator. Yeah. Right? Like, in what I'm watching live is Macho Man as a commentator.
So when you saw WrestleMania 8, you must have just been like, holy fuck, he comes back and wins the belt again?
Yeah, because it was like WrestleMania 7, like, he hits elbow, and everyone, I'm like, this match is fantastic, he's going to get it. And then the fucker kicks out.
Yeah.
And then, like, the ending of that, like, Sensational Sherry being like, you fucked up, and Elizabeth coming out, all of that. And I'm just like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Why have I not been watching this before in my life?
That's one of those pro wrestling matches that if people are like, why do you like pro wrestling? You can show them that match, and they can get lost in it.
Exactly. And as much as I think that the Megapowers is the best Macho Man story of all time, and possibly the best wrestling story of all time, Elizabeth coming out at the end of that match is the best Macho Man moment for me.
Really?
In anything. Like, just...
Too bad the Warrior didn't try to fuck her, too. And then they really could have kept this thing going for another year.
It was just so good. And like I say, the fact that the Ultimate Warrior had 4-star, 5-star matches on the regular, like, he had one at SummerSlam as well, right? The SummerSlam in Wembley was Macho Man versus Warrior as well.
It's not bad. The Warrior's singlet's really annoying in that.
But no, Macho Man versus Ultimate Warrior.
I'll give you that.
It's the feud that made me realise that the Macho Man's my favourite wrestler of all time, and that I love whatever it is I'm watching, and I want to watch it all the time.
Yeah. I hated when Sergeant Slaughter got the belt, but I loved when Savage did that, because then I knew, Savage is going to get pushed again. Because he had a period there where he was
just doing, he was fighting like Dusty Rhodes or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like I would say that like if I was doing this purely seriously, the Mega Powers would also be like number 3 in this list. But I didn't want to be like number 3, the Macho Man, number 1, the Macho Man. Like I wanted to have some variety.
Okay. So. We could just do a list of Macho Man. You can do one on the Miz by yourself.
I got a great John Cena list I could do.
The best wrestlers beginning with M.
All right.
Anyway, I think we've had a good time here. We've learnt some great feuds that we didn't know were as great as they were.
Yeah.
But that's been the Charlie West Wrestling Show. I have been the host, Charlie West. This has been the Supreme Ozzy Blaze and good old Tony. And please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Tell people about this. Tell us where we're wrong. Tell us where we're right. And we'll see you next time.
Big shout out to Twin Cherry Studios, the new home of the Charlie West Wrestling
Absolutely.
Show.
Twin Cherry Studios in Seoul, sponsored by Big K-Jax, it seems.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, exactly.
I don't really want my studio's name attached to anything that puts the Usos in the New Days at top 4.
Yeah.
Twin Cherry Studios.
Who would?
Twin Cherry Studios.
Oh,
Proud sponsor of the Miz.
Daniel Bryan over Daniel Bryan and Triple H.
Oh God. It's his show. It's his show, though.
Yeah.
We're gonna fucking hijack it.
The official opinion of Twin Cherry Studios that the Miz is one of the top 4 rivalries of all time. We'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.
I fucking knew it was I knew